Hi, it's Lori Brown from yournurseattorney.com. I'm a registered nurse as well as an attorney, and I represent healthcare professionals before the licensing board. And recently I have had a lot of nurses with problems in multiple states, and I call this the domino effect. Because if you have license in one state and have licenses in others, if you have an action in one state, then the other states will take action as well. So I wanted to be sure that you're aware of that and knew that just because there's an action in one state, you can't go to another state and work and think that it won't catch up to you, because it will. There's a thing called Nurses, NURSYS.com, and it's a database of all nursing licenses. You can go there, look up your license and your name, and find out all the other states where you have licenses in. So if you have an action in one state, other states find out either through nurses, or if you renew, you have to disclose it, things like that. Now, unfortunately, there's no time frame in which another state has to get action. So I think nurses sometimes are surprised that, well, that happened 5 years ago. Why is the state just finding out about it and doing something about it? And here's the other surprising thing, that if your license is expired in another state, they can still take action. And you still need to defend yourself, because if they do something like revoke your license or something like that because you don't show up and represent yourself or retain counsel to represent you, that can have adverse effects on your other license. So you think that you already dealt with it, say in Indiana, and then Wisconsin's coming after you now, and if you don't do anything in Wisconsin, it'll come back to haunt you in Indiana. So it's like having a driver's license. If your driver's license is in Indiana and it's revoked or suspended, you can't go driving in Illinois. It's important that you understand that each state wants to protect its citizens. So Wisconsin doesn't want you coming back there and reactivating that license there and say, well, let me activate it here and work there since my license is on probation in Indiana. And some states have mandatory reporting. So look at your state statute, or your Nurse Practice Act, wherever you're living, and see if you're required to report discipline in another state, if you're required to disclose that up front so that you can stay in compliance with the law. Now, because of the concern that we have with, like, say, Wisconsin, where you had an expired license, taking action against your license, the American Association of Nurse Attorneys, which can be found at TAANA.org, has written a position paper on statute of limitations and retained jurisdiction in nursing. Because the nurses attorneys have gotten together, we want to protect nurses, and we believe that if you have an expired license in another state, and it's been expired for a while, it's unfair to come back after you and ask you to represent yourself in that state for something that you haven't had active in years. For example, if your license was expired in Wisconsin and it's been expired for long enough where you can't just renew it without reapplying, then why should you be subject to jurisdiction in that state? Jurisdiction means where they can take action against you. So I know the Nurses Attorney Association is passionate about changing the laws in the state so that if you do have an expired license elsewhere, that you can't have action taken against it. But it's important for you to know now that if you do have a license in one state and have had other other licenses, especially if you were a traveler, those are all subject to discipline, just like your original license is wherever you had the problem at. So I consider this the domino effect. And if you do have multiple licenses, be careful. Know your state law on whether or not you have to report that, so that you can make sure that that license stays in good standing or doesn't get discipline even if it's expired. I always suggest if you only need one license at a time. So if you have licenses in other states, there may not be any reason to keep those active, but always keep your primary one, your first one, active, because the other states that you got licenses were by endorsement, not by your primary. And they always look to your primary license in terms of if that's in good standing or not. So I hope this helps you. I just wanted you to be aware of something that you may not be familiar with. Remember that if you do have a license suspended or revoked in another state, maybe because you didn't pay attention and didn't show up, and again, make sure that those other states know your address, your current address, because otherwise they can take action and you may not even know about it. So it's also important that if to get representation, because if your license is suspended or revoked, it will affect you in other states. It will be reported to the National Practitioner Data Bank, and depending on what it is, it can be also reported to the Office of the Inspector General. So again, you're thinking, it's expired, I don't need to do anything. You do. So just get representation, get whatever help you need to protect that so that you don't have the backfall on the other end for your current license. I hope this helps you, and if you have any questions, just give us a call. Thanks.